Hi, everybody, and welcome to the NFL edition of ProLine. We take a look at two of the marquee matchups on this week's schedule as the Steelers take on the Giants and the Vikings take on the Seahawks. That should be a fun game. We'll try and break those down and get you the right side on each of those contests. And we've got some great offers to tell you about as well. We've got our Twitter question of the week. We'll hear from Jeff Saad from LVSS, our man of the week. Jim Feist is here. Fairway Jay is here. My name's Dave Cokin. We get it started this weekend with a rundown on what we've got coming up in Fairway Jay, coming off a big play on the Broncos Sunday night. College totals were strong, and you've got some big stuff coming up this weekend, including a 5-play countdown, Jay.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. We've hit a couple big NFL plays. The Broncos were our top play last weekend. Rolled the Saints, and we've got a guaranteed 5-play countdown this week. 3 plays Saturday, 2 on Sunday, guaranteed to go 4-1, or you get November for free. And one of those plays will be our AFC Underdog Game of the Year going this Sunday. Call the office, 1-866-896-1627. We'll include tonight's NBA High Roller with that. 4-1 guarantee this weekend, including our AFC Underdog Game of the Year, 1-866-896-1627.
I had a big weekend. I'm really hot right now. Sometimes it's back and forth. Sometimes, like anybody else, I go into little valleys. But right now, it's a peak. Had a huge weekend in football with my college game of the year leading the way. That was Boise State. No sweat in their victory over Wyoming. So it was very strong in the colleges and pro football. The NBA off to a great start, 2-0 on opening night with the Cavaliers and the Mavericks. Dallas with the outright win against the Lakers. So really happy with the start in pro basketball. I play a lot of pro basketball early in the season because I think the numbers can be beat. I think they're a little bit soft early in the year. Public perception's a bit off. I think mine's a little bit stronger, to tell you the truth. And hopefully that will continue. Here's your opportunity to get involved and win a bunch of money over the next 30 days. You're going to get the entire month on November. All my NBA action plays, my college and pro football as well, even the start of college basketball. The whole thing's just $30. Just $30 for the entire month, $1 a day. You can't beat that. Take advantage now. Make a commitment this month to putting yourself in the red, out of the red and into the black. 1-866-896-1629 is the number. That's 1-866-896-1629. Jim, I'm gearing up for one of your big plays. I know I'll be on this. College game of the year has been absolute money for you going back into the 1990s, and you found the game. That's exciting news.
I'm glad you didn't say going back into the 1940s. Because you could have said that too. Been around a while. Dave, you said something in your ad that I have to add to. Public perception is a little off and mine is better. Come on. That is so obvious. The public is almost never right, and you're much more right than not. Get on Dave's stuff in this early NBA. It's you have 2 winners last night?
2-0 on opening night. Playing like 4 games on the second night, and I expect good results with those. So, yeah, I'm excited about firing out of the gate like I usually do.
Believe me when I tell you, Dave is a whole lot better than whatever public perception is, or the talking heads on all the networks that have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Especially from a gambling perspective. Hats off to the World Series of Poker winner, $8.5 million. I think it's Greg Merson, Merson. They played 12 hours. I mean, I went to bed and I woke up this morning, they were still playing. It's amazing. And that's why the young guys are the ones that do the best, because the stamina situation, it's just so much better for the young guys to outlast the older guys. No matter how good the older guys are, they just run out of gas more. And we see it every year. And Jay plays a lot of poker. Actually, Jay's an excellent poker player. And he has a tremendous cashing record in poker, and much more than the average. We haven't seen a big cash yet, But I think Jay's coming along for that. He's going to get there one of these days. Dave, you brought up my stuff. I mean, I've been on getting away from all that other stuff. I've been on a tremendous roll in the NFL, 28-18, including my top play with the Giants on Sunday. They made it a little sticky at the end. I guess the timekeeper tried to give the Dallas Cowboys an extra 10 plays by not starting the clock a few times, but that's the way home field advantage works, I guess. I had a high roller play on Monday night with the 49ers and Cards under the total as another very easy winner. 6-1 in college last Saturday, including high roller plays on Arizona, Ole Miss, Ball State, plus a Big East game of the year with Syracuse. My college game of the year goes this Saturday, and as Dave mentioned, since 1999, I'm 10-2-1. That's 85% with this exclusive release. $99 online. You can get it right there online at jimfeist.tv. Or you can pay $25 with a guarantee when you make the phone call to the office. If the game doesn't win, the rest of November, college football is free. You sign up early and you get a bonus play, TV winner going tonight, plus NBA through Saturday. So $25, you get the guarantee along with it. 1-866-841-1655. And I've been red hot. Stay with me. I want to tell you a little bit about something I've been doing. This goes along with education. A lot of people don't bet parlays. They don't bet teasers. But there are strategic ways to use parlays and teasers to your advantage. And I'll get into it a little bit later as we get into the games. But there are ways to make money. And I'm going to tell you this. The biggest bettors in the world that bet football use parlays and teasers to their advantage. There's a misconception by the media that they're sucker bets. They are not sucker bets. Believe me, bookmakers dread the days people come in and know how to bet parlays and teasers correctly. They dread it. And they cut their limits and they make special lines. There's all kinds of things that go on out there that we can get into. Dave, I'm going to throw it back to you to get the show started.
All right, let's start it off with the matchup in Seattle. At Quest, the Seahawks will be at home taking on the Vikings. Fairway, let's start with you on this one.
You know, Dave, I've been doing some schedule analysis, and I know a lot of us have been on Seattle this season, and, you know, the Seahawks are 4-4, and you really have to be impressed now that you're halfway through the season looking. They have had a very difficult schedule. They've been on home underdog 3 times against the Patriots, the Packers, and the Cowboys, going back in reverse order here, and they've won all 3 as an underdog. Of course, the Green Bay game at the end was questionable, but the reality is, you know, that you look at, they went to San Francisco and Detroit the last 2 weeks, came up short. No harm there, but again, very competitive. This is arguably their easiest game of the season. Certainly now they're changing roles here. They're going as a favorite, but the more I look at this and some of the things I utilize in competitive contests and just coming up with the winner to cover this spread, I think Seattle's in a good spot here. The matchups are favorable here. If you look at the Vikings, Dave and Jim, they really struggled in their one contest here against a top-tier run defense, and that was Tampa Bay just last week. Now they're going to face a real solid one here on the road at Seattle, and I've gone through the rushing attempts per game, I've gone through the points per game, and the Vikings are clearly worse on the road. That's not uncommon, but when you add in the fact that Seattle is so much stronger at home, it looks like the matchups are favorable here. I think the Seahawks bounce here really good coming back at home, where they're really strong. And then you look at the situation involving the playoffs here. If the playoffs were to start today, halfway through the season, the Packers and the Vikings would be the 2 wild cards. So Seattle to maintain and have tiebreaker edge, this becomes a pretty key game, despite it not being a division contest. But in the potential playoffs, when you look at Seattle's schedule, they got the Jets at home next week. They've got a winnable game, maybe going to Miami. They've got a game at Buffalo. I think they can win, and then they get the 3 division games. In the last part of the season, they get Arizona, San Francisco, and St. Louis all at home. So I think this team is still positioned, despite what I had questions about with How are they going to perform with Wilson at quarterback? Jim and I have talked about this. When you have a strong defense and then a solid running game, it can protect the quarterback having to do too much. That's the case here. And I like Seattle this week at home against the Vikings. 39 the total. I could probably right now only look to under the total because the Vikings, what I perceive as some struggles here scoring, and their schedule, unlike Seattle's first half really tough, the Vikings' second half schedule gets very difficult.
Well, I like the under in the football game, and I don't have a problem with the fact that the total's low in the game because the odds makers are kind of telling you what's going to happen in this game. It's going to be a battle of teams that want to run the ball. Adrian Peterson for the Vikings, Marshawn Lynch for Seattle. They don't want the game in the hands of the quarterbacks where they need to throw passes to win. Get a little help on the number because Seattle and Detroit went over the total last week. They got the 52 points. But this is a completely different type of football game. And there's not going to be any surprises here. You're not going to see either of these teams open things up. So unless both teams fail at what they're good at, which is playing good defense against the run, or you get a bunch of turnovers that lead to easy scores, you're just not going to see many touchdowns in this game. You'll see more field goals than touchdowns, in my opinion, in this matchup. I know it's tough to bet unders in the NFL this year because every game seems like it has the capabilities of getting 60 points scored. But I don't think this game, I tell you what, I'll be very surprised if this game gets into the 40s. I like the Seahawks and Vikings to stay under the total. How about you, Jim?
I couldn't agree more. I just checked the weather, and, of course, Seattle, what's new? It's supposed to rain. Now, the Seattle players are used to playing in the rain. They hardly ever see the sunshine. But Minnesota's a dome team, traveling west, time zone change, and they're going to play outdoors in the rain, which they're not used to doing. Now, when you look at the quarterbacks, Russell Wilson is a rookie, no question. Obviously very talented, a lot of skills. His record isn't all that good. I mean, passing, touchdowns and interceptions is not all that good. I mean, they're 31st in the league in passing, which is about as bad as you can get. But Christian Ponder, on the other hand, isn't very good either. He's been around the league a little longer, but I don't see a tremendous amount of difference between these two clubs. Probably look at Wilson and say he probably has more potential down the road, considering Ponder's been around a while and really hasn't developed. But when you get the running game going, of course you had Adrian Peterson, which you can't get much better than him. On the other hand, Marshawn Lynch, who's one of the toughest, meanest runners you can get. When he hits you, I don't think you want to tackle that guy. But the coaching, I think the coaching is a big edge to Pete up in Seattle. I think you got a rah-rah coach that these guys, most of Seattle is a very young team, and they respond to him. 6-2 under the total. Minnesota 5-3 under the total. Rain conditions, everything else. I'm looking for an under here.
All right. So we've got one Seattle and two unders. We'll get to the Steelers and Giants in just a little bit. Before we do anything else, though, let's head out to our man in the street, Jeff Saad, LVSS. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Dave. Free play coming up. But first, my college total of the year goes on Saturday. You can get that monster release along with NFL doubleheader on Sunday, plus a bonus TV winner going tonight. All four plays just for $15 from LVSS. Just call 1-866-575-8916. Your free total from Week 9, the Bills at the Texans. Both teams come off a bye week. While most people think of Houston as a dominant defensive team, they are on a 4-1 run over the total because of a strong offense. 230 yards passing per game and 6th rushing with 141 yards per game. They showcased that the last game, a 43-13 pasting of the Ravens. This great Houston ground game is going to love facing this Buffalo run defense because, well, they don't play any. The Bills are dead last in rush D, allowing 176.9 yards per game, throwing a secondary ranked 20th, and Buffalo will get behind early and have to throw a lot, all of which means a lot of points. Buffalo is 5-2 over the total this season and comes off a 35-34 loss to Tennessee. Play the Bills and Texans to go over the total on Sunday. And once again, get my college total of the year, plus an NFL doubleheader and a bonus TV winner going tonight. I'll offer just $15. Call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916. Back to you, Dave.
All right, it's Jeff Saad. Get on board with Jeff this weekend and make some money. Twitter question of the week. You can follow us On Twitter at Jim Feist Sports. You can be friends at Facebook at Proline TV. And if we use your question on the show, you put in a drawing to win $100 from the handicap, $100 worth of plays from the handicapper of your choice. This is from Bill Dwyer, Fort Myers, Florida. What are the biggest mistakes the average bettor makes? I think this is one of the easiest questions there is to answer. I'll talk about the biggest mistake the average bettor makes. That is only remembering the last thing they saw. And it really holds true in football. It's that in a nutshell. It's as if the other weeks that took place don't exist. Bettors, you'll hear this all the time. Well, I saw them do this last week. I saw them do this last week. It's 1 week, a 1 week sample. It doesn't mean a damn thing. Really, if anything, that 1 week sample should be a misnomer because there's regressions or progressions to the norm. Teams get away from what they usually do on a frequent basis for a week at a time. But to me, this is the most frequent mistake bettors make. Hear it on sports talk shows all the time. Not that all those people are betting, but they typify the mindset of the average bettor, where they only want to talk about what just took place. It's not enough. You're not going to beat the numbers doing that. Anybody else got a huge mistake that you think bettors make on a regular basis?
Dave, I'll agree with you. And a couple things. I think a lot of bettors, you'll hear some people say you bet too many games, but certainly Jim would acknowledge pro bettors bet a lot of games. They find their edges and they just don't overextend themselves on their bankroll. But back to you, I agree. And here's the example. I don't use power ratings in the NFL. I get into a lot of matchups. The college football game is more. There's a lot more momentum involved. In NFL, we see it every week. The contrary play, we see underdogs upset, and it seems like a surprise to the public, but it's just not in the NFL. And I don't use power ratings, but the examples I use in college are. Like you said, Florida was going really good, and they are a strong team, and their defense is good. But last week at Georgia, for example, on opening week and early in the season, Georgia would have been favored that game. And now you have the adjustment from a power. You always, I think, have to have a good set of power ratings and then adjust to what's happening and injuries and weather conditions and things. But the reality is, when you say people overreact to the recent results, that's what's happening many times, especially on these public teams. There's no doubt maybe Georgia was the better team. They got beat, but the power ratings didn't support it. And we're seeing that this week in two big games as well in the college ranks, both with the Oregon and the Alabama games. Just lines being adjusted for what we've seen recently. And I think you have to, as a bettor, step back, take a good look, get inside the matchups, and really not overreact, like you said, to what you've seen in certainly the most recent week. No doubt that momentum and good form and good play come into play, but you have to still analyze the basic fundamentals of the team's strengths.
All right, let's.
I think you also have to consider the emotional ups and downs of these pro athletes. The colleges have to be looked at differently. They play less games, and B, they're playing. Let's say they're playing. And they're not getting paid. Now, there's some question marks about some benefits that some of them might get here and there. But for the most part, they're not walking around with $15, $20 million being paid to them every year for playing or not playing. And when you get people that have a lot of money and they have families, these are more mature athletes, obviously, they're in the pros. Mature by age and not necessarily by mental growth, but they have a lot of other things going on. They have to worry about their investments. They have to worry about their wives and their kids, the little things that interfere with their preparation and their focus. In the NFL, you have division games, conference games, and non-conference, non-division games. The intensity of those kind of things. When you see the teams get very high for division games, especially if they're in contention, or if there's some kind of rivalry that's going on with the team. Like, for the example, the Jets against New England. They sort of hate each other for whatever reasons, I guess it goes back quite a few years, the Spygate and all that other stuff that went on. But, the Jets played a fabulous game against New England, and New England, and arguably Sanchez outplayed Brady in that game. I mean, they're not on the field at the same time, but production-wise, he did pretty good. What happens the next week? Jets fall flat on their face, and New England goes over to London and annihilates a team that had been playing respectably all year long with a pretty good head coach in Jeff Fisher. So, I mean, these are the kind of things that we're talking about when you were talking, Dave, about overreacting to the last game. But you really have to get, like Jay said, inside the numbers and inside the motivation. There are almost, this week, there's almost no, I don't know, are there any division games? There's hardly, if there aren't many. And that's kind of unusual. Now, next week, of course, we'll start, and there'll start to be more and more division games as we get down near the end of the year. So I think you have to really dig inside some of this stuff. Last week in college ball, you had quite a few teams that were undefeated that went down to defeat. You mentioned Oregon and possibly being overvalued against a quality team like USC. But Oregon's got something else on their mind. They're not number 2 in the country. Nobody's going to argue that Alabama shouldn't be number 1. But why isn't Oregon number 2? And in Oregon's head, I mean, this is a team that wins the first half by 50 points and then puts the scrubs in the rest of the way. They don't even try to win the game. They can win every game 100-0. Now, the problem is their conference is very weak, and their conference is not getting much respect. So a team like Notre Dame, who goes to Oklahoma and beats them and beat them soundly, it gets a lot of respect, and they move up. And then Kansas State, you got those 4 teams, so there's different motivations. Oregon wants to get to be number 2. They want to make sure they get into that big game at the end of the year, and the only way they're going to do it is by pounding on a team like USC if they're capable of doing that. If they're capable of doing it. So you really got to get inside their heads and inside the numbers.
All right, let's look at the numbers in the Steelers-Giants game and see if we can come up with a winner there. I guess I'll start on this one. The Steelers are, I shouldn't be surprised by this. This is a well-coached, excuse me, this is a really well-coached football team, and they're showing it right now. The Steelers look to me coming into this season like a team that could have an off year by their standards. I'm starting to think that may not have been accurate because, Tomlin's finding a way to get things done again. This entire staff makes adjustments about as well as any in the league. And they played really good football the last six quarters. Cincinnati, second half of that game, they were brilliant. And last week, solid win over the Redskins, who have not been getting pounded and did last week. But the Giants, well, they'll look at this as a big game, even though they're coming off Dallas and even though it's out of conference. And when it's a big game for the Giants, watch out. You don't want to really be against Tom Coughlin. This is, to me, the opposite of the Vikings-Seahawks game. I think we're going to see the ball in the air all day long here. I believe the Steelers and Giants, between the two of them, we're looking at 80-plus passes. Both teams will be throwing the football, and with 2 outstanding quarterbacks, I think you're going to see a lot of yardage and some points going up both ways. I think this will be one of the higher-scoring games of the day. Now, check the weather conditions, because we are into November, and that stadium, even the new stadium, can be nasty. But if it's okay on the weather, I like this game to go over the total. If the weather's off, then I'll probably just stay out of the game. Fairway, your thoughts?
Yeah, 47.5, Dave, and I'll give you the weather update. After all the issues on the East Coast and the storm Sandy, this looks fine on Sunday, about 51 degrees. Looks like partly cloudy, real small chance of rain and light winds. So I agree with you. I do a lot of statistical analysis and then the matchups and how it's going to play out. And both these teams run the ball 26 times a game, but on the road, the Steelers run it about 24 times a game, and the Giants, surprisingly at home, don't run it as often. And then in the matchups and who plays good run defense and how it plans out in your strengths at the quarterback position and putting it in the air, I agree with you. I think this ball will be in the air more in this contest. I, like you, had some questions about Pittsburgh coming in, and they're starting to answer them. They had some bad losses, and that's really my only trepidation here, maybe supporting the Steelers here, because the home-road splits on these teams from a point spread perspective are not good. The Steelers have really struggled on the road. Now, we've seen it not only this year, but going back to last year, their ATS mark is poor. And then the Giants, of course, the best road team in the NFL, really going strong again. But at home, they're just not covering these numbers, and we've seen it consistently. It's not a one situation. It's seemingly like when they're home, they're getting maybe too much respect in the line, and they're just not meeting that expectation. So I think this is a tough game in terms of the matchups to figure out who can pull out this win. You are laying 3.5 with the Giants, but I agree we'll probably see the ball in the air a little bit more, and if the quarterbacks play to form, I think we could see the scoring up and over this total as well.
We talk about Pittsburgh. They have been an under team recently, and that could be problematic. Matter of fact, I'm looking at the Steelers are on a 10-4 run under the total. Now, but the thing about the Steelers, this team is a little different than what we used to look at with Steelers. I mean, they're sixth in passing, 282 yards per game, but they're 26th in rushing. The Steelers were always a rushing team first and a passing team second. And on the other side, the Giants are third in passing and 12th in rushing. So both of these clubs who used to be able to pound the ball on the ground are going to the run, to the pass more so. Now, of course, the whole league has done that, but the Giants are on 11-4 under 11-4 in the last 15 games overall. So I don't know. We seem to have a change in perspective in the NFL. There's a lot more over, but you're looking at it in the line as well. I mean, these lines are not small. I mean, this 47 and a half is not exactly a low number. But you look at this, Pittsburgh rushing the ball 99 yards per game, giving up 91. They actually give up more yards per carry than they get per carry, but they're 1.4 yards per pass than their opponents, which is a positive. Yards per point compared to the Giants is terrible. The Giants have really capitalized on a lot of turnovers, and that's really helped them because yards per point, it's a 13 versus a 19, which is a +6, and that's excellent. But it's a hard matchup. Now, when you look at what happened last week, the Giants played a huge game down in Dallas, and quite frankly, I wasn't very impressed with the way the Giants ended that game. Up 23-0, had all those turnovers, did not capitalize as much as I thought they should, and then they went into a funk and blew the lead. And if it wasn't for the fact that, I guess Des Bryant if he didn't put his hand down outside the box, that would have been a touchdown. They lose the game. I'd like to know what the hell the Giants were doing, allowing a wide receiver to get off the line, not get hit, and allow the wide receiver to get deep. It's like their coaching staff completely went to sleep in this game. I was not impressed with the way they won that game. Granted, it's a tough place to go and win, but they weren't on their game. And, I look for Pittsburgh to put up a big effort here. The Giants are not a good home favorite. The line is not that expensive for them to cover. It's only 3.5. But Pittsburgh's tough, and they will come to play. And when you play Pittsburgh, you know you're going to get hit because these guys will hit you. And they're a very physical football team, well coached, as David brought up in the beginning. They are well coached. It's going to be a tight game.
Well, guys, let's go to our best bets and remind everybody of some great opportunities to make some serious money this weekend playing these games. Jay, let's start with you.
You know, I'll go to this game, Dave, because the more I look at it, the Steelers, the Giants have benefit. They're tied with New England for the biggest plus turnover margin at plus 13 this year, and the Steelers are right around level. I think they're actually plus 1 for the year. That's significant. And we saw the Giants. I'm looking at their past stats here. I think Pittsburgh puts the ball in the air and has some success. The Giants are their defense gets a lot of credit, I think, from a public perception, but it's really not that good, and it was exposed last week again through the air. I'll take the Steelers as a best bet this week, taking the points on the road. Looking at the standings, it's a game they'll be ready for. They're still in the mix here at 4-3. I think the motivation is strong, and like Jim said, coming off the big Dallas game, I just see a little letdown here for the Giants. So Steelers best bet this week.
And let everybody know what you got for the offer, Jay.
You got it. As mentioned, 4-1 guarantee this week, 3 college, 2 pros. It includes our AFC underdog game of the year. I talked to Jim about this. I have a situational setup that is real strong, as well. It comes with the situations involving the teams and their matchups in recent weeks. And then I've looked at the fundamentals. This one's going to go, and it's going to be big here. Underdog game of the year in the AFC this week. We'll include that as part of our 4-1 guarantee. Just $25 for that. We also chipped in an opening night NBA winner over the total in the Heat game. We'll add our high roller NBA tonight. Call 1-866-896-1627 to get those offers this week.
I'm going to go under in the matchup between the Seahawks and Vikings out in Seattle. The weather is not going to hurt. I think the style of play here will be conservative both ways. Neither team wants to lose the game with their young quarterback. Look for a low-scoring game. Wouldn't surprise me if this is a 17-14 type of matchup. And if it is, I don't really care who wins because I'll be cashing that ticket on the under. The NBA is off to a great start. Killing football right now. College the last couple of weeks has been enormously successful. College game of the week, or college game of the year was last week. Easy winner on Boise State. Obviously can't have any more of those this year. But 25-7 lifetime. That's an annual event that people look forward to. This is a terrific offer that I've got because it's going to get you action in every sport. NBA, NFL, college football, even the beginning of college basketball later this month. You're going to get every action play I've got for the entire month. And November's annually one of my best months because we've got early season numbers to take advantage of in basketball and lots of data to work with in football. The best of all worlds. $30, $1 a day for the entire month. And all you need to do is make one phone call and you're ready to go. 1-866-896-1629 is that number. 1-866-896-1629. And Jim, here we go. College football game of the year. And the timing is great because you absolutely blew apart the colleges last week, so you're coming in real hot.
Coming in real hot, 6-1 in college football last week. Ole Miss, Arizona, Ball State, Syracuse. My college game of the year is important to me. And it's important to all of us, guys, because we really put all of our handicapping techniques together, and we look for the situational, the fundamental, the technical, all the things, the coaching matchups. We try to get all those things going for us. And then, of course, we look at the line, which is all important. You're not going to get Alabama against Ball State, pick 'em. You're going to lay numbers. So you got to look at the line and whether it's a proper line or not. And when the lines came out this week on Sunday night, there were a couple games that looked very juicy. This one here seems to match in all the areas that I look for. I'm 10-2-1 since 1999. That's 85%. This is available online right now at $99, or you could make the choice to call, pay $25. You get a guarantee along with that phone call. What if you win? You have to win this game, or the rest of November college football is free. Now, when you sign up early, you get a free bonus on a TV winner going tonight and an NBA matchups through Saturday. That's all the NBA through Saturday. Now, I intend to win the game, so you're not going to get the guarantee. But if it's possible, I do lose the game, you do get that guarantee. But believe me, I'm going to be on this game heavy. I expect to win it. I expect you to win it. and I expect you to go to the phone and call right now, 1-866-841-1655. As far as my best bet is concerned, unless there's a lot of turnovers in this game and they create points, I don't see how the Vikings and the Seahawks get to this total. I think it's going under the total as my best bet.
All right, that's going to do it for the NFL edition of ProLine. Make sure to check out the college edition as well, because on that program this week we're looking at the two biggest games in the schedule, Oregon USC, Alabama LSU. So definitely check out the college football edition. Meanwhile, for Jeff Saad and for Fairway Jay and Jim Feist, I'm Dave Cokin. Thanks a lot for watching. Win some money this weekend, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Good luck, guys.
Bye-bye.